In this video, we're going to look at the Maverick and have a bit of an overview of all of the controls, all of the options, and you'll hear exactly how these options affect your end tone. Now, the Maverick comes with Complete 11 and Complete 11 Ultimate, or of course you can buy it outright on its own. Now, the Maverick, as you can see here, is a replication of a vintage Bechstein Model A grand piano, and it sounds absolutely beautiful. You can see it's about a 14 gig sample library, although once it's installed, because of the compression that Native Instruments uses, you can see on my system, it's about 5 gigs or so, okay, and I'm on Windows. Okay, right here you can see a lot of the features, half pedal and repedaling. There are special resonance samples. Now, first off, we're going to just look at this PDF real quick, just to get you up to speed about all of our options here that we have right here in the Maverick. So we'll have a really quick look at those in the PDF, and then we'll have a bit of a playthrough so you can hear exactly how all of these options affect our end tone. So we have our tone control, which of course gives you control over the tonal character. You'll hear the difference between soft and hard whenever we get into that. So you can see the color changes the tone and timbre from soft to hard. Pretty self-explanatory there. Then we have, of course, our lid control. And we have 3 different settings between all the way open, half closed, and all the way closed. It makes a big difference, you know, to your tone there. Of course, we have these fly out buttons here, which we'll get to. You can see we can fly this out. And of course, you turn things on or off if they have a light next to it. Okay. That's the same down here for our anatomy section. Lots of options. So let's just have a quick look at these here. So equalizer, that's pretty self-explanatory. Bass, body, which is about your mids, and then your air, which is like the top end. We have our tonal depth. So that's going to adjust the amount of resonance added to the dry piano. Then we have our transients, so we can adjust the amount of extra size generated by the transient master effect. Our low keys, which is something that I like. Let's go in here to our low keys here, up here in tone. Our low keys right here. Let me turn that on. So I pull it down to less and I hit a really low key. Turn up to more. Hitting it at about the same velocity. You can see how it's louder. That comes into play whenever you're playing around, when you're actually playing the piano. I can't do it now because I'm just using one hand, but if I played back here, you can hear the difference. All right, pretty cool. Let's get on back to a bit of the explanation here, and then we'll test all these things out. Then we look at our compressor and tape. So of course, this has a bit of a built-in compressor there. So it's more of a sound tool than a dynamics tool, which you might use like a plug-in compressor for, but it's a very cool option nonetheless. Then we have our anatomy controls. So really basic things that are nice to have. So our dynamic range, our resonances, and you can read about that right here. So control the piano's dynamic range by adjusting the volume while still using all velocity samples. So left to compress, right to expand the dynamic range. Our resonances, so whenever we're pressing down the sustain pedal there, very cool. And of course we have our flyout page, as already mentioned right there. A lot of options in there. As you can see, we have overtones, release samples, stereo image, whether it's going to be mono or really, really wide. Our keys section, so you can set that up to respond better to your MIDI keyboard. So for example, you can see the velocity curve. If you have a complete control, which I do not, set it up just like this so it responds, just the way you want. You can see I'm just going to hit it about at a certain velocity. Now I'll turn this down to a really soft velocity, and I'm still going to hit the key exactly the same hardness. You can hear the difference. And by the way, this also comes into play even if you're drawing in your MIDI. So it's not strictly a control for just inputting your MIDI. So I'll just hit play. You can hear the difference here. Go up to something really hard. So you can definitely hear the difference, and you can see the velocity curve. I'll put that back onto linear. Then we have our silent key. Let's go back here, which you can see right here. Clicking the silent key enables the silent key function. So very low key velocities result in no sound. Of course, we have pedal controls, all kind of pedal controls, repedaling, half pedaling, and of course we have noises here for the hammer, the damper, the pedal, and the strings. You may not be able to hear this really loudly, which you don't want to. That wouldn't be accurate if it was very, very loud, but you can nonetheless adjust all of these different noises. Very cool that they included all of those different noises and samples there. Of course, we have our release samples, which again, you can read about that here. When hitting a key, the damper leaves the strings. When releasing the key, the damper comes down to the string again, and the energy, of course, generated by a loudly vibrating piano string, especially the longer, more powerful strings, can't be stopped by the small felt damper right away, so the sound gradually dies away. So we have controls over that there. Okay, release samples, which we just went over, then noises, then we have our tuning, of course, and also we could choose between stretched or equal. If you don't know what that means, just leave it as stretched, okay? You can play around with that if you want, but here's a really good explanation, okay? Then we have our space control, which is basically like a reverb control. And we have a bunch of impulse responses that come with this. All right, so that is a quick run through of what everything does. Now let's actually hear this in action. Okay. One more thing I will mention about the Maverick. As you can see, it comes with one in KI, but it comes with a bunch of different snapshots. So real quick here, I'll just choose a snapshot here. Now, whenever you choose a snapshot or a preset, what it basically does is adjust all of these parameters for you to whatever that snapshot was saved as. So we'll just go to Maverick on tape. You can see how all of this stuff has changed for us. You can see our compressor tape style right there. So we'll just play back here. We'll switch a snapshot. Very, very nice piano. Now, right now, we're going to go back to the basic Maverick because what I want to do is play through and just sort of, adjust these parameters. Now, in a later video, we will have a playthrough of the Maverick with no talking, so you can just hear the piano without me adjusting a bunch of, different parameters here, just so you can hear how beautiful this instrument really is. But right now, this video, I just want to show you how all of these parameters affect your tone. Okay, so let's go ahead and start this up. I'm just going to pull this MIDI loop down a bit, click it, make sure I have loop playback on, which I do. And we're just going to keep looping around and around. And I'm going to be adjusting our parameters, and we'll see how that sounds, how changing this stuff up, how that makes a difference to our end tone. Let's go ahead and hit play. Start up here with the tone. Let's go to soft. Go up to hard. Let's adjust our lid. Right now it's all the way open, half. Close it down. A much softer tone there, which can definitely come in handy. Keep in mind, we're kind of just adjusting things one at a time, but imagine changing a lot of these parameters in concert to really get that tone you want. Go ahead and turn that back off. We'll go to right around here, and I'll leave it open just for now. Let's go ahead and hear the equalizer. Again, we have to turn it on here. Let's pull out some bass. Let our loop start over. Pull it in. Gonna get it really bass heavy. Good for sound design. Our body, getting a little crispy. Our air, our top end. You should know how an equalizer works. If you're in music at all, you should know how a EQ works. There. Let's go on to our tonal depth. Maybe we want it really, really natural sounding. Pull it way down. We can make it more resonant. Oh yeah, you can definitely hear that. Much more sort of ethereal tone there. I like that. I'm just gonna leave it up a little bit. I'm gonna leave this on. Go to the transients. Pull the attack down. And again, anytime you can look down here at the bottom, whenever I'm hovering over a control, you can see exactly what that does. Go to sustain. On to our low keys. Pull it up more. We'll let it start over so you can really hear the difference there. Hear those bass notes? Let's pull it down a bit. So a bit more of an even representation. Maybe a bit much out. Maybe around there is good. Go on to compressor tape. Again, turn that on. We have an amount knob here. We have a bunch of different presets here, and you can see the different kind of compressors. We can see the knee here and exactly how it's affecting our tone. You can see this is a tape right here. You can pull that amount way up, really limit that out. Very cool. I'll turn that off. You can definitely hear the difference that made, you know, compressing everything, bringing everything up to around the same levels there. Our dynamic range went down a bit, but that's cool. All right, so that's the tone section. On to anatomy. Dynamic range, let's pull it way down. So that really compresses it. And that basically means that the difference between our quietest notes and our louder notes are less different. The total volume or the dynamic range of those softer played notes versus the louder played notes, okay? So let's go ahead and pull it way up and you'll hear the difference. Now we have a huge dynamic range, which you should be able to play really softly and loudly, and the total volume difference was going to be way, way different. Pull it down to around here. Go to the resonance, pull that up. You can see when the pedal is activated. Pull it down a bit. Go ahead and pop this out. And we already have the overtones on, but you can always turn them off. Just pull it way up. You're not going to hear too much here, but it does give it a bit more of a lively sound. Of course, you can adjust the amount. Now, release samples, I'll just pull it way up. It's going to be a bit hard to really hear the difference, but there is a difference. You can kind of hear them here where it fades out. We'll just pull that down. Let's go ahead and turn it off. Stereo image, you'll definitely hear this. That's basically mono now. That's super wide. Very cool to have this included. Of course, we can swap it right here. And we already saw this, but we'll just see it again real quick here. Let our loop start over again. Going to our pedal. Let's turn those both on. We'll just leave them on. Going to our noises, let's turn them, all of them on. Our hammer, our damper, our pedal, and our strings. And of course you can adjust the level of those samples. Probably not going to hear much with the hammer, but you'll definitely hear this pedal coming on and off. Hear that? It's kind of like a boom, boom. Hear that? So very cool to make that very realistic sounding. And again, you can choose how much you want in there. I wouldn't want that much of the pedal because it's distracting. Very cool. And then of course we have our tuning, which I'm not really going to mess with here, but you can mess with that however you want. Very cool. Move on to our last area, the space or the reverb. Turn it on. And right down here is where we choose the kind of space or reverb. Let's go to a large hall. Of course, we can choose the amount. Let's pull it way in. That's a nice space. Pull the size way up. You're gonna hear some clicks. That's just it adjusting. You can pull the distance way up or way down, which basically adjusts the pre-delay. Of course, that's way too much. I just want you to hear how these different spaces sound. Taj Mahal, I really like this one here. That's of course way too much, but a very nice space. And you have a bunch to choose from here. Even something like a plate. Let's pull that way in just so you can really hear it. Chapel. This one's really nice as well. Listen to that. Hear that? Great reverberation. To really hear that kind of decay out, I'll just take the loop off and you'll hear the end here. And just hear how this decays out. It's very nice. Still decaying out. Very, very nice. Let's go to one more here. Let's go to, say, our Cathedral, which is, again, very nice. I'll pull the amount way up, the size up. Our distance is right there. I don't want too much of a pre-delay, just so you can really hear this here. And we'll just pull this to around here, so you can really hear how this decays out. Absolutely beautiful. Okay, so that is our quick overview and sort of demo there of the Maverick, of exactly how all of our parameters, all of our options affect our end tone. Now, again, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, that I will have another demo video of just the Maverick, just a playthrough. We'll go through some of these different presets here, or snapshots here, just so you can hear it play through and actually hear how it sounds sort of in context of a piano track without me, distracting everyone and talking over top of it. But that is the Maverick. Lots of options, absolutely beautifully sampled piano. Again, comes with Complete 11, Complete 11 Ultimate, or you can buy it outright. Works right here in Native Instruments Kontakt. So you can always go check it out at nativeinstruments.com.